from our Secondary Ed studios, and welcome to our Halloween edition of Secondary Ed 521. I want to invite you all into the room so I can see your bright, shiny pumpkin faces. While we're waiting to get started, you're going to need your reader, possibly your Vodka text if we have time for karaoke, and also a pen and paper, pen or pencil and paper, something to write with and something to write on. So let me give you a minute to grab that before we get started tonight. And once again, let me see your bright, shiny faces, sharing your video on screen. All right, almost everybody's here. Give you a minute to get your stuff together. Okay, one more thing you're going to need tonight is the story that I sent you, A Game of Catch. So if you would somehow bring that up on your computers and put it on your desktop, or unless you printed it out, you were going to be working with that a little bit later tonight. So have that handy as well. And I know a couple of you are driving, so we'll see your faces when you finally land at your destination. Okay, let me give you just a minute here, make sure everybody's squared away. Okay, I think we're good to go. So as I mentioned, this is our Halloween edition, being that Halloween is Monday. And as a special trick or treat for you, I have prepared some of the absolute worst Halloween jokes you will ever hear. Now, the reason that I'm sharing these with you now is because these jokes will be posted in Canvas on a PowerPoint. So if you wish to use them for your kids or with your kids, then I want to make sure that they're available for you, okay? But these will be guaranteed to scare the pants off you if you're looking for good jokes. So be ready. Are you ready? Now, there's a part of this that you have to participate in, and that is I need you to unmute. And after every joke, your cue when the witch flies is to yell boo. Okay? Let's try it once on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Oh.
Now that was, I don't know whether that was a trick. It wasn't a treat. So let's try it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Boo.
Boo.
A little better. A little bit more brio this time. 3rd time's the charm. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I think you guys are sleeping. Maybe these jokes will wake you up. All right, here we go. Now, this is the lead sheet that I use. If you're going to use this, you probably wouldn't use this one because your kids don't need to know that you're in Secondary Ed 21. So you might use this one here as your starting point. Okay? All right, so these are bad Halloween jokes. And again, after the joke and the witch flies, you're to yell boo. And I'd like you to try to wake your neighbors up and scare them because it is Halloween, right? Okay. So what do ghosts eat for dinner? Spaghetti. They're terrible jokes. Why didn't the skeleton want to go to work? His heart wasn't in it.
No.
What did the mama go say when her son asked you for help with scaring people? You need to learn to boo it yourself.
Oh.
Boo.
Why didn't the skeleton want to go to the prom? He had no body to go with.
Oh.
Boo.
Why are ghosts so bad at lying? Because you can see right through them.
They don't have.
Boo.
Where do mother ghosts leave their children when they go to work? At the day scare center.
Yeah.
That's for all you mothers out there. What do ghosts use to wash their hair? Shampoo. Hair straight? Scare spray.
Boo.
Oh boy.
Right? And if you want to use them on Monday, you try to rehearse it for your PowerPoint. The important thing is to get them to boo as loud as possible. Okay? All right. If you haven't yet, bring up your story of a game of catch and just set it aside somewhere because we're going to be working on that in a little bit. Okay?
Cool.
Okay, we're going to play a little bit tonight. So I hope you guys are up for it. Last week we talked about and introduced the idea of the 5 mental states. And so what I want to do is share with you a lesson on the state of flexibility, which is the state of mind that fuels empathy and the ability to take perspectives of other people. And I've designed a lesson on this. Now, one of the ways that we approach this is through the School Days book that I shared with you. But I want to integrate the lesson on flexibility with a demonstration of a lesson that's what we call a BDA lesson, which is a before, during, after, which is part of what you read for the IQ this week on Chapter 5, Planning for Instruction. Okay? Now, in VACA, one of the points that was brought up was by fostering a learning environment that is response-centered, teachers can provide students with critical opportunities to explore text, construct meaning, and make personal connections to content and subjects. So I have to tell you a little bit of backstory here. One of the science teachers at the school where I was a dean came to me, and I was working a lot with content literacy at that time too. And he said to me, one of the problems I'm having with my students is I can't get them to write. Now, we're going to be looking at writing more closely later, but I want to bring this out as a vehicle for getting at enhancing comprehension as well. So I asked him, I said, well, what are you studying? And he said, well, we're studying parts of a cell. I said, okay, so why don't you have them write a job application letter to apply to be a part in a cell? So he thought that was an interesting idea. So he went back to his class and he assigned them to write a letter introducing themselves and giving their qualifications for the job. what he got back was really amazing writing, and these were ESL students. And the interesting thing was that the kids got totally into it, and even one girl, I don't know where she found this, but she said that she had graduated from the Juilliard School of Mitochondria, and these were her qualifications. So I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. So it gave me this idea about how we can extend this into different disciplines. And so what I want to walk you through is this part of it tonight and show you how I work with the kids on getting them to the point where they could do this. Okay, so I'm going to jump back in here. So the article that explains this is on page 37 in your reader. If you want to open that up to there, you can.
Okay.
And while the concept of the idea was flexibility, what I wanted to talk about was the development of an interior monologue, and then I'll show you how I use these in my classes. So one of the interesting things about the art world is this famous picture, Mona Lisa. And the intriguing part of Mona Lisa is the expression on her face. And the question has always been, what is she thinking, right? With that expression, is it a smile? Is it a smirk? It's always been something that's been an object of art criticism, and I think it's kind of a fascinating image. To extend it a little further, maybe she wasn't thinking at all, right? Maybe it was just a smirk, as the caption here says, and you can wipe that ambiguous smirk off your face this instant, young lady. So maybe there was something going on there that we don't know about. I mean, she might have been a teenager for all we know, right? So we also can talk about Mona Lisa's thinking processes during the pandemic, because here's the first week of isolation. What is she thinking here? Here's the second week of isolation. What do you think she's thinking here? After a month of isolation, we can relate to this, can't we? What is she thinking here? And what is she thinking here? A little integration of the arts and the sciences. Okay. So I came up with this lesson, and what it involves is understanding and teaching a direct interior monologue. And I'm going to share this with you, and this is also posted in Canvas as well with the whole lesson. Okay? So when we talk about an interior monologue, we're talking about an expression of a character's thoughts, feelings, and impressions in a narrative. An interior monologue may be either direct or indirect. So in a direct monologue is in which the author seems not to exist and the interior self of the character is given directly, as though the reader were overhearing an articulation of the stream of thought and feeling flowing through the character's mind. So an example might be, if it's 110 degrees outside, an interior monologue might be, man, it's really hot out here. I don't know if I'm going to make it to class. I better stop and get a drink of water or I'm going to pass out. Versus an indirect monologue in which the author serves as a selector, presenter, guide, and commentator. So in that same example, the temperature outside was 110 degrees. As Ron was walking to class, he felt that he was going to pass out. He decided that if he didn't get a drink of water right away, he wasn't going to be able to make it. So in one, there's a narrator, and then the other one, there's just stream of thought. And that's the difference between direct and indirect monologue. So I wanted to kind of think about it in a way where I would demonstrate it. So I came up with this idea of Mona Lisa, and the context is that Mona Lisa had been invited to a costume party, but she didn't know that it was a costume party, and she just showed up as she normally would. And now she feels totally out of place, okay? So here she goes. Wow, I didn't know that this was going to be a costume party. I'm the only one here not in a costume. Nobody told me, and I feel like a total idiot. I think I'm going to find a chair and just sit and hope that nobody notices me. Oh, hi, Countess Maria. I'll just give her a little wave as I walk over to the corner and hope she doesn't follow me. She thinks she's all that in a bag of chips, but I know the real story. She only got that Countess title because of her husband, the Count. She's such a phony. I wonder who that is over there in that lion costume. Pretty elaborate. Let me just sit here and maybe I can get through this. That pizza and pasta sure look good, but I don't want to walk over there to get it. I feel so out of place. Uh-oh. I think that person with the long beard and that funny hat is Leonardo. I hope he doesn't see me. Oh no, he spotted me and he's coming over here. He just keeps asking me to dinner, and I don't want. And then we break into a little dialogue. Oh, hi, Leonardo. You what? You want to paint my picture? Why, yes, I guess that would be okay, but don't ask me out to dinner. When? Next Wednesday. Okay, I guess I can meet you at the studio, but I don't really want to have anything nice to wear. Oh, don't worry about that? Okay, well, we'll see you then. No, I'm not going to stay too much longer. See you later. It'd be funny if my picture became famous. So we introduced the idea of a direct monologue to the kids to get them thinking about the idea of making a stream of consciousness selection. Then we asked them to write their own interior monologue based upon any situation that they want. And I give them some labels. So if they wanted to do Mona Lisa, they could do Mona Lisa. If there's something that they got really angry about, could be, for us, it could be getting stuck in traffic or whatever, then we go under the aegis of the angry bird. If there's something that we want to write about where we're really happy, like maybe we got an A on a test or something, then we would write happy camper. If there's something that makes you think OMG, then you can write about that case. If there's something that makes you think to yourself in a situation, well, I'm not happy about that. And then if there's another situation that says, well, that's a surprise, then you could write about that. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, in looking at these labels here, I'd like you to take about 5 minutes, think of a situation or make it up, and write your own direct interior monologue based upon one of these labels. Okay, think of a situation, and then go ahead and take about 5 minutes, and let's write your own interior monologue, and then we'll share some out with the group. Let me remind you again, the key is there's no narrator. It's all stream of consciousness. About another minute or so. Okay, let me take a little survey here. Anybody do Mona Lisa? Okay, yeah, okay. Karen? Anybody do Angry Bird? Any Angry Birds out there? Okay. See Tony. Any Happy Campers? No Happy Campers. Oh, I see them. Okay, good. All right, we got a couple here. And what about OMGs? Any OMGs? Okay. All right, we got a couple there. And how about I'm not happy about that? Okay, got a couple there. And how about, well, that's a surprise? All right, great. Okay, so for the good of the cause, let's share some of these. And again, what we're looking for is to make sure that there's no narration. So this is my prep to get us into the activity. So can I get somebody to share? Karen, you want to share your Mona Lisa?
All right, just a second. Okay. Oh. Sorry.
How cute.
It's how most things work at my house.
That's okay.
Mom gets busy and they suddenly need something.
Yep.
So this was mine. Did you even read the sign? Of course not. No pictures, please. That's right. Just move along. No need to push. Just be patient. I am not small, thank you very much. Can we hurry up? Hurry this up. I would really love a nap right about now. No. Well, excuse me.
So you had her as the exhibit itself. That's interesting. Yep. Great idea. That's original too. Okay. Let's hear an Angry Bird. Who's our Angry Birds?
I did one, but it was sort of like a rant. So
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
All right. Work has me feeling like an angry bird, but I can't really show it since I work with kids. Just to set the record straight, the kids still make me angry. My coworkers make me an angry bird. And if I was an angry bird, I'd be the red one.
Okay, good. All right, that's fine. Okay. Another Angry Bird out there? Any other Angry Birds? What about Happy Campers? I know I have a couple. Okay, Giselle?
That person, they're such a happy camper. Sometimes I don't even know what they might be going through. Regardless, it can be so annoying to always have that happy camper like a ray of sunshine around. No, sorry. That's it. Like, seriously, I'm having a bad day and you're happy? No, I'm really trying to get to the bottom of this because I'm tired of going to the same job every single day, and every morning the happy camper tells me, "Hi, how are you?" Like, I had a bad day. I was stuck in traffic. I had to walk my dogs. Didn't you? Aren't you even? Do you ever have a bad morning? Are you always a happy-go-lucky person?
Good. That was perfect. Thank you. Yeah, you got right in there, and that's good. And even the dog was chiming in with you, so that's great. Okay, another happy camper? Anybody? Okay, what about an OMG? I'm not happy about that. Okay, Laura?
Um, I am not happy about that, but I cannot say that aloud. They are going to think I am a negative person. No, but some others might think like me. No, you better don't say it aloud. But then, what are you going to say when your turn comes? I don't know. It is better to be a happy camper. Everything is going to be okay. Yes, I can plan.
Great, thank you. All this self-talk, okay? And how about, whoa, that's a surprise? Anybody want to try that one? All of a sudden, you're all so shy. Well, so we're going to go to the next part of this then, and that's going to be, if you'll find your, this will be the test case. If you'll find your story, A Game of Catch, you're going to write an interior monologue for one of the characters. But before we do that, I'm going to walk you through the steps to the lesson because the interior monologue would be a cumulative task. So I'm going to show you how I created a before, during, and after a lesson with the story. Game of Catch is a children's book. I like to use this because the story, first of all, it's about baseball. And I always like to use it right around the time of the World Series. Or if I'm in the spring semester, I bring it up right around the time of spring training and opening day. So it's, in a little timely way. The other thing about the story is that the story has a theme. And it's a play on words with the title, because A Game of Catch can be the actual game of catch, but there's another subtext to that title, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, and we'll recap the story after I take you through this. So, where we start is with an anticipation guide, and the next IQ that you're going to do will have more elaboration on the notion of anticipation guides. But again, the directions are, if you agree with the statement, put a check mark. If you don't agree with it or disagree with it, leave it blank. All right, so the first statement says some kids just don't seem to fit in with other students. Agree or disagree. Number two, when kids get picked on, it's because they are different. And number three, some students get pleasure out of disrespecting other kids. So you kind of get the idea of the theme here, which is really the underlying theme of the story, A Game of Catch. So then the students would write their responses in terms of why they agreed or why they disagreed in the spaces below. And we would have a pre-reading discussion, which gets at some of the concepts around the story. But the important part of this is that the ability to actually do the anticipation guide is not dependent on having read the story. That's the important part. Okay. So that's the first activity that we talk about as a before. And then we want to introduce some more around the theme. So this is called a word storm. And in the word storm, you're going to see other word storms as we go through the other lessons. But in the word storm here, we pick a word. And the word that we're going to choose is really a key word. It's the word exclusion, because that's the overarching theme of the story. And so the theme word for this story has to do with people being left out. Describe a situation where you've been excluded from something. It could be being left off a team, not invited to a party, something like that. We asked them to go back and try to determine if there was ever a situation where they felt that they were left out of the picture. And then we asked them for some other words or phrases that could have to do with the main word. For example, the word omitted means being left out, so that could be another word that they could add. But there are other words here as well. Can you think of any other words that might fit into that square, into that line?
Ostracized.
Okay. And as we get more words, we're going to be, adding them to this. So we're writing them down on either some sort of LCD display or chalkboard or something like that, so the kids can copy the words down. What's another word that might fit here? Rejected. Okay.
Left out.
Left out. Good.
Isolated.
Isolated. Uh-huh.
Ignored?
Good. Sure. So we have enough words here to kind of flesh out and add a little bit more depth to the meaning. Okay. What are 3 things people might do who are excluded?
Sulk.
Well, I couldn't quite get that.
Sulk.
Sulk. Okay. Hide. Okay.
Interrupt. Maybe.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Try to interrupt,
Would be another
interfere.
Uh-huh. You think some kids would cry? Get mad? Act out?
Feel shame probably.
What was that?
I said possibly feel shameful.
Shameful. Okay, that's a good one. What are
They might bully too.
they might
like-
bully? Yeah, that's right. Sure, absolutely. Okay. Who would be likely to use this word other than teachers?
Students.
Yeah. Okay.
Priest.
What was that one more time?
Priest. From church.
Oh, priests. Okay. Uh-huh. Maybe friends. Right. Okay. And then what we do is we have them in the square below do an illustration of what they think that word might look like. Okay, so you'll get a variety of different kinds of drawings here. So what we've done is we've basically given the label and the theme what it is that we're going to be reading. Okay, in this case, the game of catch. Then we have the story, and over the course of the semester, I'll be showing you different ways that we have the kids read the story. There are some different methods that we use for guided reading. We could even have them do a quick write if they wanted to, okay, if we wanted to do that as well. But there are other means of having them get guided reading or shared reading through the experience, okay? Then we go back and we do what we call a note-making review. And in the note-making, this is where we do this as part of a class discussion. So what we do is or a group discussion, or even an individual. So what we do is we give them the headliner, and we give them the taxonomy. So when we talk about Monk and Glenny, on the left side, the right side of the T should explain who Monk and Glenny are. Okay. Then the next one is SCO, and your notes should explain why was SCO involved in the story. Number 3, the third one, Game of Catch, is basically where were they playing the game and how was it being played? And then the next one is what happened when SCO got excluded? So we want to make notes about SCO's exclusion. And then SCO has an interesting response to being excluded. So we want to know what was SCO's reaction to being excluded from the game. And then we do a short constructed response, use the information from the story to answer this question: what did SCO hope to accomplish by going up into the tree? So this is the way that we actually discuss and review the story. And this could come after we do a quick write. It's a way of bringing the information out and generating a class discussion and giving them some practice on taking notes. The one thing I would add is that when we model this on the right-hand side of the T, we want them to respond in complete sentences. So that's one thing that we have to work with them on so that they're actually taking notes in a meaningful way and not just putting out what I call bumper sticker answers. Okay? Now, if I want to give them some metalinguistic practice, let's say that I've noticed that my kids have a habit of having their subjects and their verbs fight with each other, or maybe they're having trouble with verb tenses. So I can do this activity here, which is called a close activity. What I've done here is I've made certain deletions, and I've given them three different versions of the verb that goes in the blank. So not only are we reviewing the story and giving them some comprehension skill, but we're also focusing on some of the grammar aspects of the text itself, so that they have to pick the correct verb that would go in there. So we're focusing on not only the story itself, but also on some of the language development for the kids. Okay, and again, if your kids have subject-verb agreement issues, then this is always a good way to do it. And this is also good to do with a think, pair, share, or in small groups. Then in order to do like an executive summary of the story, we do a writing frame. And the writing frame is we're going to give them basically the outline of an executive summary of the story, but these are not one-word responses that go into the blank. So they have to actually do a sentence completion. Again, this is a great activity to do with groups as well. So in other words, this is Monk and Glenny were playing a game of catch by the firehouse. As they're playing, Glenny sees Sko dawdling up the street and calls to him. All right. Sko responds by saying, "Hey, you could throw me some grounders, but I don't have a glove." And then Glenny says, "Well, come on in and you can use one of ours." Right. So you get the idea that there's more to it than just introducing a one-word response. So they really have to think through the events and then transfer them onto paper. And that's what we call a writing frame. Very good for not only helping enhance writing skill, but also very good for language development. And of course, you would model parts of this before you actually put them to work on it. And the last part of it is a cumulative task. This is where we get into the whole notion of perspective taking and empathy. So there are two prompts. They can choose either prompt A or prompt B. And we're looking for one or two paragraphs, depending upon the class. So the first one is, your friend is Sko, one of the few that he has. After he explains what happened with Monk and Glenny, you want to offer some help, but you decided to write him a letter rather than try to talk to him. In your letter, you'll explain the situation from the view of Monk and Glenny and offer some suggestions as to what he might do once he sees them again at school. Or, prompt B, you are friends with both Monk and Glenny. Both boys are still a bit hot over what happened. You decide to try and explain the situation from Sko's point of view. Because they're still a bit mad about the situation, you decide to write one letter for both of them. But what would you say to help them understand Sko's point of view? Also give some advice as to what they should do once they see him again at school. All right, so we've done it before, during, and after, but we're using the story of Monk and Glenny and a game of catch to get at some of the issues here around the story. Okay? These are all posted in Canvas, so you have them there for you if you want to use them. Now, the other thing is, what we're going to do now is using our skill for writing a direct interior monologue. You're going to write a direct interior monologue for one of the characters in the story. So you might need to go back and review the story, but let's recap the story real quickly. Monk and Glenny, two 7th grade boys, they're pretty good baseball players. Hot summer day, and they're playing baseball. They're playing catch, and they're having a nice leisurely game. And then what interrupts their game? Or who interrupts their game? Okay, so Kalia, how does Sko do that?
I think they see him just like walking along, and they ask him to come play.
Okay, you pretty much got it. They see him. They describe him. The author describes him as dawdling along. So right away, it tells us he's a little bit clumsy. but inadvertently he invites himself into the game. So they really didn't invite him. He inserts himself in the game, and Glennie, being the nicer of the two boys, says, "Oh, sure, come on." Right? He basically says, "Okay, come on, and we'll throw you some easy grounders." Okay, so they start playing catch, and they throw Sko a grounder. Now he can't catch it, so the ball rolls down to the fire station. He just gets it before it goes under the truck, and then he picks it up, and when he throws it back, he hits a tree. It's a sapling. And the ball goes back again, and he has to go run and get that. So then he walks it up to Sko and to Monk and Glennie. And then there's a little change in the game. What's the change that they make?
They make him wait. Like, instead of being in the game right now, they told him to wait 5 minutes, and they're gonna take turns. But they don't actually take turns. They just make him wait.
Right. So he's waiting
because
there.
They discovered he couldn't play.
Right. So he knows he's not going to play after a bit, right? He says, "You think it's been 5 minutes?" He said, "Not yet. We're getting there." Right. So then Sko decides to make a change in the whole scene. What did he do?
He climbed the tree so that he can get attention.
Okay. And Kate, you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, he was climbing the tree. He was, when he was up there, he was telling the kids, like, "Oh, I made you do that. The reason why you're doing the things you're doing is because I made you."
Okay, so he starts taunting them, right?
Yeah, like being bossy too.
Yeah, and being bossy and basically getting under their skin. So then Monk loses it. He was the hot-headed of the two, right? He was more intense. He was a better baseball player too, but he was also very intense. So Monk loses it, and then what does Monk do? Yes, go ahead, Kate.
He climbs up the tree,
mm-hmm.
And then when he climbs up the tree, that's when Sko fell, and then again Sko was like, "Hey, I made you do that." I'm kind of
Okay. So so Monk and Glennie run over to him to see if he needs any help, and he's having trouble breathing, but then, like you said, Sko says, "I made you do that." And as they walk away, he says, "I'm going to make you do whatever you do for the rest of your life." So the game of catch has two meanings. One is, of course, the easy baseball game. The other one is that Sko caught them in his trap. Right? He got him. He got under their skin. He made Monk react. And although we think Monk didn't knock him out of the tree, he fell and he continued the game. So this is kind of an intriguing story, and I think that it's a story that many, many kids can relate to in terms of being left out of a situation. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go back and review the story, and you're going to write an interior monologue. Let me just put this up on screen here. So here's your task. Now, you're going to select a character, but I'm going to give you a character to choose. And if your last name begins with A through F, you're going to take Monk. If you're G through M, you're going to take Glennie. And if you're O and beyond, then you're going to take Sko. Okay? Now, what you're going to do is determine a point in the story, anywhere that you want in the story, on where you want to focus. And then you're going to write a short, one paragraph is fine, a short, direct interior monologue that displays your character's thinking at that point in the story. So, for example, if you were going to do Monk, and Glennie says, "Sure, come on over and play," Monk might be thinking, "Oh my God, why did he invite that dork into this game? This is going to mess us up, and we're going to be trying to deal with this forever." Blah blah blah, whatever he might say. Okay. So look through the story. We'll give you about 10 minutes. Look through the story. Find a point that you want to focus on. And with your character, go ahead and write a direct interior monologue. And then we'll share some of these. Okay? And this is going to constitute our happy hour. So let me give you about 10 minutes to do this. Questions?
I'm sorry, the story is in Canvas?
I'm sorry, what?
The story is in Canvas?
It's in two places. I emailed it to you, and it's also in Canvas.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Well, you said if our name starts with A through F, we are
Monk.
Okay, thank you.